Welcome to the Game of Life podcast, where we bring you inspiring softball stories, insightful tips from coaches and players, and explore how the game transcends its boundaries to become a metaphor for life. Whether you're a sports enthusiast, a casual fan, or someone just looking for inspiration, you're in for a treat. We'll unravel the tales that go beyond the scoreboard. Discover how perseverance and hard work on the field translates into resilience in your daily challenges. Learn about teamwork, leadership, and the unwavering spirit that fuels success, not just in sports, but in the game of life. Here we are, Game of Life podcast, episode 1.
Woohoo!
You can't have a streak till you have the first episode.
100%. I thought he likes 3, I think, but yeah.
When it's 3, it's a snap streak, right?
Right.
So this was crazy. What was it? 16 years ago when you started? We were trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because I
And
was. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and I'll never forget Jenna, your older sister, was invited to a travel team. And I mean, it's 8U, so we're talking like, come on, at the end of the day, we look back now, but we were gung ho as a family. They needed an extra player, so they said, bring Allie to practice. And explain that experience and your thoughts. Do you even remember?
I I don't necessarily remember all the details. I remember the feeling of just feeling super young, kind of out of place, but older sister was doing it, so I needed to do it too. And I remember the gym we were in, funny enough, that old gym we were in. But yeah, I pretty much went onto the team. I could tell kind of right away that I wasn't at the level I should probably be at to be there, but they knew that they were going to take Jenna, so they kind of just took me too. And to think that my softball career went on for 15 years after that is absolutely insane. But you got to start somewhere, and I'm so thankful it did. So I guess I owe my sister for that. But yeah, so just a crazy start for sure.
I remember you came home and you always got stuck with the tall, strong girl that you were like scared to death to try to catch the ball.
Yeah, well, that and there was the mix of, I don't know if you remember this, but we were at, I think, our like local park, and he threw a ball at me and it hit me in the face, and I didn't want to play for like 3 months. I was scared. Do
Yeah.
you
I don't remember. I know I was just talking, I was doing a clinic tonight for a bunch of age groups, and I was telling one of the other coaches that they're like, how do you stay so level headed? And I'm like, well, I've had a few softball dad moments, and luckily I had a strong wife, and we could get into later episodes of some of the stories of how you and Jenna both reeled me in because
But you were
it,
also, we also got very lucky with you.
well, thank you. But no, I'm just saying when you're doing this and you're competitive and the emotion of your kids playing, like everybody has moments, and if they don't, they're robots and they're lying to you.
And yours are very funny, so we'll get into them eventually.
We will. So your
Um,
first your your first season goes by. I
mhm.
think you guys played 5 tournaments.
I got one hit, right?
Well, I want to talk about that. Middle of the summer, you broke up a perfect game. Do you remember how you broke up the perfect game?
Yeah, I like was so short that she couldn't throw me a strike, so I I got a walk. I remember.
Mom and I were just talking about that. Were you scared to swing or were they all balls?
No, I'm pretty sure you guys told me like
I don't remember.
I think they were just like, be really picky. That
That
was their
girl,
way of
that,
like, do not.
we should look, but that girl threw gas at that age. Like,
But I got to first base, so I'm
yeah,
might on my resume going.
and we went to the last tournament of the year. Allie was 0 for the summer. But you did break up a perfect game. Like
Mhm.
that's okay. And then I remember you hit I still remember to this day it was a ground ball up the middle past the pitcher. Luckily, no one's good to like close that gap at that level.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
you ended up with 2 or 3 hits that weekend. It wasn't just one. It broke the seal. You were ready to
yeah,
roll.
yeah. It did. I remember. No, but yeah, that was awesome. I think that was just a catalyst for everything that was to come. Because I mean, even at that age, like, did I have the talent yet? No. but nobody does. And I just fell in love with the game. Like I knew it was one that I was gonna make a big impact in my life. The impact it did make, I didn't know the magnitude that it would have on my life, but I knew it was special from that first summer. And I just loved the idea of competing. Like I loved the idea of the process of just working to get better and being with my team all the time. And I knew that was something that was going to be important in my life.
So you didn't know at that age you wanted to play college softball?
No. And I think that's one thing about us too, like our story, and even with Jenna, my sister, who also played D1 at the University of Buffalo, but it was never in my family year all of high school. You're gonna be a D1 athlete. Like you're gonna play a college sport. Like that's just what you're gonna do. That's your path. Like it was always, hey, do you still like playing? Are you enjoying it? Is this still something you want to do? And it was always a heck yeah. Like I love it. But it was just I appreciated the fact that it was never, hey, this is something you're gonna do, so let's work hard at it. So
I know we'll shift gears a little to my thought process with this first year. When you I mean, I was a college golfer. I tried playing on some mini tours for a while in Florida and realized that's not going to be how I feed my family someday. But that's okay. And I come back and I'm in finance, and then I go back to school to become an educator. And I start coaching a high school golf team. And then I get a job at the local community college as the college golf coach. And I'm like, this is perfect. And I go home and I build a green in my backyard, 17 tons of dirt and sand, just
when
because
he
that's
says a green, he means like picture you're on the golf course, green in my backyard, like golfer's dream. So just wanted to put that out there.
well, and back to the process. I think what we've done as a family, you guys learned it from mom and I, that if you're going to do something, do it. Like some people call it a hobby. I mean, other people call it an obsession. I mean, anybody can be the judge of that.
No,
but
yeah.
but that's where you're at. And every weekend, community college golf works where you leave Friday and you're home Sunday. And
Mhm.
I know you guys would have sleepovers in mom's room when I was gone and you were little, and then you started playing t-ball. And I remember I'd be getting updates, before just FaceTime and everything else, like how they doing. And all of a sudden I'm like, what am I doing? Like I'm not there. And as an educator, like I had the time to be with you guys and help you out, and I wasn't there. I was doing other things. You were supposed to be golfers, and we can dive into that with your golf experience. But
Yeah.
you just took an interest in other sports. But at the end of the day, you and Jenna both like to compete.
Mhm.
It wasn't about. I made an early decision as a dad and a coach that doesn't matter what you play. The joke in our family is you could play traveling horseshoes and we would have been flying around the country like playing traveling horseshoes looking for a scholarship, even though no schools have that. So
Yeah,
I
maybe
think,
they should. Maybe they should.
yeah, well, you talk about the process, and I think it's the process of competing, right?
Yeah, well, and that goes back to, I know, one of my favorite quotes that I'm sure we'll talk about more as we continue this journey, but how you do anything is how you do everything. Like that is something I try to live by, and I think something that obviously you and mom and instilled in me from a pretty young age. Like if I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it to the best of my ability, just because I feel like I owe that to myself to leave it all out there and give it my best go. So back to what you said with the putting green too. Like you could have just kind of half done it and said, whatever, here's a little putting green, but it literally looks state of the art. Like I was on a golf course and I still didn't play golf. So that's what you couldn't have done anything.
Well, two things. That's the quote on the back of our high school shirts this year. Thanks to you. I'll send you out a shirt.
Oh, thanks.
And And again, I just thought it's funny how they always say if you want to make God smile, right? Tell him your plans.
Mhm.
I mean, I built the green. I had summers off. I worked maintenance on weekends at a golf course for free, just changing the holes. So I had free golf. I would
Yeah.
take you and Jenna golfing all the time. Like
Mhm.
that's just what you're going to do. And all that being set up, for some reason, you just took a liking to softball and
Yeah,
basketball.
honestly, though, Deb, like kudos to you for not saying that was something I had to do. because a lot of parents would have done that. They would have been like, fine, you can play softball, but we're gonna enter the first competitive golf tournament you when you reach X age. Like, you're gonna do this and you're gonna like it. And you never did that. Like we would putt on the putting green and we'd be running around and we'd be like, oh, this is fun. But you never said like, hey, you have to do this. And I think that's something honestly, like that's super rare for you not to be like something that was a must have in our family.
I'll give a little credit to mother on that one because
Oh,
I'm like I,
conversation.
I I had the summer tournament set up in Pinehurst, North Carolina. I'm like, we're going. And I remember since Jenna was older, she was the one, she talked to mom and sat me down and be like, I like golf. Like, I like the golf cart and the goldfish and the drinks and the snacks. But yeah, I don't really want to compete. And I'm like, what? I tried everything. I remember no matter how well I was playing when you guys were tired, we would leave. One time I was 3 under par after 5 holes, and you guys are playing, and I'm like, this is awesome. It was time to go. And I like I needed blood pressure medicine that
Right.
day because it's
Yeah.
like 3 under par after 5 holes, but we left, and it's all good.
Yeah.
So
Well,
but I think not knowing any better, that that set the stage to it's about you competing. I've lived my life, and of course I want to provide every resource your way, and I want to help you out in any way possible, but it doesn't have to be golf. I think we just
right.
love the bonding of the competition.
And I think it's always been more about instilling qualities in me, regardless of like what I'm competing. So back to softball, I guess here. We'll keep going. We'll keep going with the softball journey. So do you want to take it from there? So after that first year,
Yeah, so you have a couple good years, and then
push
we
for local travel team.
yeah, well, we play rec league, and I help with that, and we have things are going well in the all stars and all that. And I remember after your last year at 12, we were with a lot of local people, and we had a really good team, a lot of good families. And correct me if I say this wrong. We sat down as a family, and you had the opportunity to go to Binghamton, 60 miles away, and play on a uh, I don't want to say a more elite team because at that age, I think there's so many good players, but you had a team that took softball in a different direction and had the connections, if that makes sense. And
Agreed. Yes, it was based out of Binghamton, but girls were up to like 3 hours away.
I remember I was kicking and screaming because I had my softball dad friends. I had the
Yeah.
connections. I was one of the coaches, and we go to that. I'll never forget. We go up there, and mom wants to stop at the mall first. And then for whatever reason, we lose track of time. We're late to the tryout. And I'm like, not only are we going to a tryout I don't want to be at, you guys are late.
And I think
And
like looking back, that's one of those decisions that at the time, like to me at my age, it didn't feel like a big deal. But that was probably like one of the most pivotal decisions I made and we made in our softball career. Like looking back at it, because from there is when I like really dove into the fact that like I want to play in college. Like this is something that I want to fully invest my time into because I just saw like the level of competition increased so much. And that was something like I wanted to challenge myself to get there. I loved my team. They pushed me super hard. And just the people were so special. And that I think I do agree, like we didn't realize how kind of pivotal it was at the time.
yeah, well, it was very pivotal for me because I didn't want to go. Like I wanted to be like like we had a good thing because
Mhm.
our area is very deep in softball. I mean, I was telling you today, I just had an ex-player and student text me part of a upset against Kentucky, like I mean, and we have our other friend that was is a big player in the Big East, and I
Yeah.
mean, it's you can go anywhere,
Mhm.
but it was sometimes it's about going to the team or the place that makes you better.
Yeah.
It's not staying in your comfort zone. And
Well, yeah, because any sort of change is going to be scary at all times.
I'll never forget, we show up late, you guys go running out.
Mhm.
You were a catcher at the time,
Mhm.
Jenna was a pitcher. And as soon as you guys start warming up, God bless Mr. Wiggins. I mean, God rest his soul. I mean, he was another player in the game that probably kept us going and taught us so many things, myself and you guys too. And
Yeah.
I'm in the car watching, and he comes running right over to you guys, and he didn't leave you for a half hour. And I go to Mom, pardon my language. I'm like, oh shit, they're on the team.
Oh crap. No.
Yeah, and then
I
afterwards he
remember
comes
that.
up.
He was one of the biggest probably difference makers in my softball career too. And I know he'd be so happy that we're doing this podcast too,
Yeah,
just because he was just a coach who I could tell that he loved us all the time. Like
yeah,
he would get on us so hard and we deserved it. But at the end of the day, like I knew that he cared about me and just wanted me to get better, and that was it. And he like what he did with our team that year was insane. Like the
yeah.
way he just wheeled us all together and all that. So I just wanted to give a shout out to him. But yeah, it was crazy. And what we played for that program for how many years?
Three.
3, 4? Yeah.
Yeah, it gets me a little teary eyed because I could just hear him yelling still, like, I love you
Yeah.
guys. That's why I'm yelling at you.
Yes.
He just starts
Yeah.
screaming at you. And
Yeah.
then you guys would give it right back to him respectfully. There
Yeah.
was just everybody. I think what makes a great team and culture is when no one's afraid to be vulnerable. And
Mhm.
everybody on that team, nobody was afraid to be vulnerable.
No. And what that causes you to do when you're vulnerable, like you can give and receive feedback in such a better way. Right? Like
Yeah.
it's part of my language, but if I'm vulnerable and super close to someone, I'll be like, dude, get your head out of your ass, seriously. And if there's not going to be any, mixed messages, drama. She said this to me. I can't believe that. It's like, oh, you're right, my bad. Like, and then we just move on from it. And that I think was the difference maker on a lot of the things I've been on is just being able to do that in a respectful way that it makes it so efficient and just elevates your team.
I didn't realize how special that was. I think about that all the time, but that's not normal. Like
Mhm.
that's and not only was it special and not normal with 12 and 13-year olds. Like that's crazy. And if you think about it, almost everyone on that team went on and played college softball.
Mhm.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and we still talk to this day.
Yeah.
So,
So I'll never forget, I think the second year of that year, you went and won Eastern Nationals.
mhm.
And I'll never forget he said you're gonna go shock the nation.
Yeah,
And everybody's like, shock the nation? Like, we're just going.
yeah, that was his tagline.
But
But
we also then I remember the one year we went down to Atlanta and we were cruising along and then played the Texas Aces. And we went up 1-0.
yeah,
We went up 1-0, and then they just destroyed us.
oh, we went into the game and we knew they were a really, really good team. And we're before the game, we're like, we got this, guys. Like, this is our time. We're good. Top of the first, we're up 1-0. We're like, oh yeah, they're going down.
Yeah.
Bottom of the first, it was like 9-1. We were like, okay, guys, like let's just limit the damage at this point. Like, it was totally just
But one of my favorite stories is I'll never forget. That's the year we won Eastern Nationals. I mean, there were
oh yeah.
35 teams that year, and we win
Mhm.
Eastern Nationals. And the practice before Eastern Nationals, I'm like, guys, oh, that's when he said we're gonna go shock the nation. And I
Yeah, he's
go,
like, we're gonna be at the top of the mountain. Like,
yeah. And I go, I think we said something like, who's at the top of the mountain? And I don't remember who it was. They're like, the Texas Aces.
no, no, we all said you go, who's at the top of the mountain? And everybody goes, we are. And then you go, no, I think the Texans.
Oh, I said it.
We were like, oh, and we all went silent and we are like, that's funny. Like, respect.
Like but we kept it real though. Like nobody, and we'll get into Tremors and other years, but I think that was so pivotal with him
Mhm,
is it set the stage that you just go play everybody.
mhm,
Like I look back, we had no business beating some of the teams we beat, and it's just because you guys all played. It it wasn't you. It was in this day and age of adding people on Twitter and Instagram. We didn't have that, but it was just we just go play softball. Nobody even cares what happens, and if we
yeah,
get blown up or if we win, we just go play softball. Everybody on that team really loved the game.
Yeah. Yeah. You
It was
have to.
crazy.
Like, if you're playing three, four, sometimes 5 games a day, like we were, and like a lot of girls do in travel, if you don't like it, it becomes miserable. Like, if you are not having fun, it is 10-hour days of your whole summer every weekend. Like, that would be miserable. Luckily for us, because we had fun, right? And we'll get into the difference. One of my favorite conversations to have with the girls I coach now too is there's a difference between having fun and making fun. And like we truly made fun. Like every time we came, whether it was practice, game, we were watching play, like we were goofing around and making our own fun. And I think that's something that's super important.
It really is. And I mean, again, that was a pivotal decision. I mean, when we went 60 miles away to play for that other team, I think of all the people and friendships and relationships we've had since then.
Mhm.
It was rough locally for a while because people are
Yeah.
like crabs in a bucket. Like when you leave to go better yourself, they want to drag you back down. And I don't
Mhm.
mean drag you down in a sense that I don't
But there's a
want you to
lot
be.
of there's a lot of judgment and a lot of I want to say almost taking it personally, like, and it
Yes.
was a decision we had to make as a family for ourselves at that point. But yeah, and then after that, we transferred to another team that was the one we finished out our travel career on. Um,
Well, I wanna skip gears for a minute. I remember so we had such a successful 14U run, and around here in Western New York, you really don't play 16U. You go right from 14U to 18U.
yeah, yeah.
And so that whole team, right up to 18U, you're down in Orlando. What were you, ninth grade, playing 18U softball? And again, looking back, not saying it was right or wrong, it's just
Mhm.
where you were with your whole team.
Yeah.
I'll never forget we're there, and what, they throw you in left field in a game? Is this
Oh
too
my
soon to
God.
talk
Yeah.
about this one?
I don't always.
They throw you in left
I
field.
like I like trigger.
Yeah, they throw you in left field, and first pitch or first bat or whatever, somewhere in that inning, fly ball comes to you. Take the story from there.
I don't want to. You can finish it.
Ball drops, run
No, like
score.
in my glove drop
Yeah.
in case
And as
anybody.
fast as you were in the game, you were out of the game.
Oh, it was a full timeout. You yank
Yeah.
out the left fielder, jogging in I go, sit my butt on the bench. Yeah.
And again, that's a whole type of coaching we'll get into in lots of episodes. I'm not, well, I have lots of words to say about that. But the point is,
Yeah.
as a parent, and I was they put me in the dugout, so I'm just shutting my mouth. But the point is, we're going to go through lots of history, and we'll ask guests when we have them on. I didn't say a word. You're not happy. I don't know if you held back tears or not. Like, I just don't remember how you felt, but it's like,
I do.
that's not like that year, you almost didn't want to play softball anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
do that
and we're
because
not.
it just wasn't, I just felt defeated every day. Like I just felt like, and we'll get into this a lot too. Like when you play a game where you fail so much, sometimes it's really hard not to tie your self-worth to your performance. So if I'm constantly getting screamed at with like never any sign of positivity, it takes a toll on yourself too. And it's kind of hard to get out of that cycle.
Yeah, well, you stole some words from my mouth. In a game where, in a game where failure, like, you 33% of the time you're considered a success. So failure is still successful. When you have a coach that just constantly barks at your failure,
Mhm.
not like, we'll get it next time, we'll do it this
Yeah.
time. Oh, that's okay. That that grates on people. And I think there's a lot of that goes on in softball. And if you don't have good support at home, or if you don't have good teammates or
Mhm.
assistant coaches, it can end it for people. And it's easy, you see people on Twitter and social media, oh, when the going gets tough, keep doing your
Right.
thing. I succeed from failure. Yeah, but you need support in that process.
Right. 100%. And that being said, like when I deserve it, absolutely get on me. Like if I deserve it and you need to give me feedback, do it. But I think there's a right way to do it. I think there's a right time and a place, and it also needs to be offset with sort of positive. Like you did this. I'm going to get on you. Here's how we fix it. Here's what we do next time. Here's what we do better. I know you have it in you. Some sort of like positive reinforcement after that, just instead of like, that was terrible. It's like, yeah, I know. Thank you. I already knew that, but thank you for telling
But regardless, we got through all that. And
me.
then we went to the travel team you finished on. And,
Mhm.
you know, I've had Lou on my podcast. We'll bring him on here. Uh, the guy's amazing. When you play on the Tremors, which you finished,
Mhm.
it's a national team. They go all over the place. You're not going to practice yourself to death on that team.
Wow. Because that was what we are going back to what we said earlier. That team was also a lot of the girls on my team were up to 3, 4 hours away from Binghamton. So you can keep me honest. I don't remember the practice schedule like super off the top of my head, but over the winter, I think it was just every Sunday, every other or every Sunday.
Yeah, I'll remember the practice schedule. It's every other Sunday in the winter, and then in the summer, it's never.
Yeah.
Like
Yep.
you'd go to the tournaments, but the point is, it doesn't mean you don't practice. Like,
No, we had no. I mean, we were most days doing something softball related, and so was everyone else on my team. It just wasn't, all right, guys, let's get together 3 times a week and make sure we're all hitting off the tee and doing this stuff. It was, all right, your team's relying on you. Make sure you're getting in the gym, getting in the cage, doing what you need to do this week before we fly to Colorado or fly somewhere else so that when you show up, like your team can count on you.
you
And that
know,
was,
it's interesting. So think about that for a minute. When you were in college, you didn't always practice as a team every day. Didn't you go in groups and hit and
yep,
infielders, outfielders, pitchers?
for the
What's
most part.
different? What's different about your travel team in the fact that you're just doing it on your own at your own destination?
Right. And I think there's a time and a place for team, right? The closer you get to end season,
Yes.
the more you need team practice. You need camaraderie. You need first and third plays. You need defense shifts. You need all that stuff, right? But over the fall and throughout the winter, like you should kind of be working on to elevate your personal game. Like I tell the girls I coach all the time, I'm like, I would rather have you go in the cage 3 times a week and pick something you're really bad at and work, or not, I don't like to say really bad at, you need improvement on and work on just that instead of going in 6 times and just hitting off the tee down the middle. Like that's not going to make you any better. So sometimes group setting is better because you can focus or have good intent, right? And be efficient with the things that you actually need to get better at instead of as a team, everything's rushed, right? We're doing like 5 minute stations, you're just getting a few swings in, like, right? Like that's the time for more fine tuning and not any sort of necessarily big changes or development.
I feel so piggybacking on that. I did open gyms this winter for high school and I had a Google Doc. People sign up, they hit for 40 minutes, leave. Like it's not a 2 hour feel good practice where you throw and hit and you got stations. The question that bothered the girls the most was I'm like, oh, what have you worked on since last time? What are you working on with your travel coaches? And they look at me and they go, well, what do you mean?
Mhm.
Like, well, when you were at practice for 4 hours on a Sunday, what were you working on? Well, we just went through stations.
Kidding?
Yeah, I'm like, well, so how can I help you? Like, I'm not against travel coaches. I'm not trying to say I know more or less,
Mm-mm. No.
but if I'm getting to know you and I don't know what you're working on, how can I supplement that? How can I
Or
help
and my second favorite off of that is when they're doing a drill and I'm like, oh, like why do you do that drill? What do you like what's it helping you with? I don't know. My coach just told me to do it. Right? Like that I think is probably one of the most frustrating things to hear as a coach, right? Because I every time I have my girls do a drill still, I'm like, remind me why we're doing this. Because if you don't know the purpose behind it, you're not
you?
gonna
Right.
do it to its fullest benefit. Like you're not gonna get the benefit you're supposed to get out of it if you're not going in with the right intent.
Yeah, and if you don't buy in and you're not a stakeholder in the process and you don't have
Mhm.
skin in the game understanding it, like the practice is worthless.
Yeah.
And and again, Lou and the Tremors team you were on, I'm not saying everybody came and went and had the same feeling, but
Right.
the people that did well out of his program knew that and took care of their business on their own end. And
Hmm.
we were always lucky because we had you, me, and Jenna, so we could go have our own little mini practices,
Right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and but yeah, so that was the process, and we'll move forward a little more. We're trying to just get a little synopsis of
Yeah.
where this is going to go and
We'll
all the
dive
next steps.
deeper into all these different parts with time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, let's talk about your high school career.
Mhm.
I remember seventh grade, you didn't make JVs, and at the
Well,
end of
so
the
let me preface too, because some places I've learned since I moved out here
yeah,
it's different. So where I grew up, seventh and eighth grade you have modified, which is technically the seventh and eighth grade team. Ninth and tenth grade you have JV, varsity, and then 11th and 12th grade is the varsity team. But in New York, where we grew up, in seventh grade you could try out for JV and varsity if you wanted, right? You were put on any team that you had the skill level to be on. So I remember in seventh grade, right, I was playing on all these travel teams. All my friends were on JV. So I always just thought, I'm going to try out for JV. It will be hard, like it will be a challenge, but I think like I should make JV. And I went into the tryout and I didn't make it. I got cut in JV in seventh grade, and I was a mess. And Dad, you can since I came home and I'm just like, I don't get it. Like I deserve it. I worked so hard. I did really well. They told me that I was the last person, so I missed it by one person, and whatever other reasons. And I just remember coming home and I'm like, I don't even want to play modified. Like I'm embarrassed. Like because at that point in my career, like all the girls I played travel with were playing JV at their schools, and it was just like a punch in the gut. And honestly, the first time in my softball career where I was rejected in that way. Um, and at the end of the day, it made me 100 times better. But I don't know, Dad, from your perspective, remember
yeah,
that day?
but yeah, I remember it 100% because there's nothing like if there's one lesson parents could get out of this podcast is no matter how you feel, like it's not your life, it's your kid's life. And it's okay to not make something. It's never okay to stop. Stop. If you still want to do it. If you want to pivot and if you said, "Hey, I want to go take piano lessons," I'd be like, we might have had a talk, but if it was
Yeah.
time to move on and try something else, that's okay. But you liked it. So, all right,
Right.
well, sorry that didn't work out. I remember you had 18 kids on your team and in modified, and you played 3 innings a game, no matter what happened. 3 innings,
And
sick, 3 innings.
I remember you and Mom were like, you have two choices. You can either just be like whatever and kind of just get your way through it, or you can take this opportunity to like do extra work, be a leader, so that when you try out next year, like you show them that they made the wrong choice. Like show them that you are someone that they need in their program and that they want on their team, and you get to decide how you use this year. You get to decide how you use.
And you chose that. So in eighth grade, you try out, and how'd you rank?
I ranked first in the entire tryout in eighth grade, and I remember that because they told me. Um, and I think that was just the first time, and I know this is probably one of the most basic like life lessons you hear all the time, but that was the first time really in my life that I saw hard work like actually pay off and tangibly work. I didn't make a team. I worked my butt off for a year, and then I saw the benefit of that. And that just like I don't know, it was like a shift in my mindset of I can do like the bar is really high for me in the sport and I want to keep growing. And I feel like after that I just wasn't as afraid of failure because I saw myself get through it. Like I proved to myself that that was okay. Right. And we'll talk about this in depth probably multiple
Yeah.
episodes. Like that's not a failure because I got something from it and I was exactly where I needed to be in that year. Like everything happens for a reason. And there's been times in my life where I have no idea what the reason is, but now I do. Like at the time, I'm like, what the heck? I have no idea why is this happening to me? No, it happened for me. Like it didn't happen to me. It was something that happened for me because I needed that experience in my life to set me up to be successful in the future.
It's adversity and
Mhm.
coping. Like everybody wants to talk about it until it happens to them. And then they want to blame other people.
Yeah.
And moving forward, you go to varsity. I remember you weren't on varsity till 10th grade. And
Mhm.
again, it's not a knock to anything. It's
No.
just the way the process was. But I remember you weren't even scheduled to be a starter on varsity till somebody got sick.
Hmm.
and you jumped in, and then the rest is history. And the other thing I like to add, you were a catcher. We had your custom mask. You were going to be a catcher. You
Is it
love
behind you
catching.
still? Yeah.
Yeah, it's still. Can you see it right there?
Yeah. You can't see the designs on it, but yeah, I got it like custom spray painted and everything.
Well,
Yeah.
it because alligator. It was the
Probably doesn't
gator.
fit my head anymore. Yeah.
Maybe I'll wear it next episode. But you start playing, and then I mean, someone beats you out. I mean, they're playing D1 softball right now, so it's not that they're not a good catcher either.
Huh.
But it's a lesson. I was at a clinic today, and I always ask the girls what position they play, blah blah blah, and I'm like, why don't you just say you play every position like you're a softball player?
I do the same thing. What position do you play? And she'll be like, shortstop. I'm like, and they just kind of look at me. I'm like, and what else?
Yeah, it's funny. Now the catching. Let's fast forward into college quick. The catching did come in handy your first couple of years in college, right?
It did. Yeah, so I got recruited. I went to Binghamton University, which was the best thing ever. I have so many good things. I love my time at Binghamton. But my first 2 years, I was more of a bench player, so I didn't see a lot of playing time, which my dad was just alluding to and joking about. So a lot of bullpens my first 2 years. But looking back at that now too, like that was just another part of my journey. Like I am more than happy and willing to talk about those 2.5 years as I am the last 2.5 that I was, more of a role player and pretty successful. Like there's no shame in me talking about those years at all because I needed that to be where I am now. Like I would not be the person I am, the player I am, because that needed to happen in my life for whatever reason, right? And at the time, I didn't necessarily think that way, right? At the time, I didn't understand that. But now looking back, it's like, okay, like that helped me instill qualities that I probably wouldn't have had if I was a starter right away. And just things like that.
You see it both ways. You see people come in and start and have great careers. You see people come in and start, and then it gets tough. You see
Mhm.
people not start and play. You see people transfer now more than ever with the
Well, and I
transfer
think the
portal.
biggest thing is, yes, and I think the biggest thing too is you start comparing yourself to everybody else, right? But like no one else is meant to walk your path, right? Like you can't compare your collegiate years or your high school years to anybody else because there's so many circumstances that are different. So you just have to look at yourself and say, right, a lot of people would blame a coach or blame a circumstance. Like I always just looked at myself and was like, I'm grateful to be here. Like I'm a Division 1 athlete. I love my team. I love this university. I love like I get to go to practice every day. I don't have to go to practice every day. And I truly just fell in love with the process of what I was doing. And because of that, I could still enjoy myself during those years, right? Like I still was enjoying going to practice and enjoying being part of the Binghamton softball team. And I just found a way to do the best with my role that I possibly could.
The process. Everybody talks about the process, and I feel like because of the process, they think they should have some guaranteed outcome.
No, that's
But
the thing about sports. Yeah. No, could I keep going?
no, but the process will give you the outcome you want. Like it'll give you a good outcome for a life, but
Mhm.
we don't know which way it's going to take us. Like your process, I remember after your sophomore year, like whatever happens, happens. And we'll get into what happened the last couple of years. I think it exceeded like no one, you didn't play softball for the accolades you ended up getting in the teams you
Yeah.
had. You played softball because you love the process and you love being there. That work ethic in general,
Hmm.
if it didn't transpire at the end of your softball career, it would have transpired in you coaching or in your job or whatever. The fact it did come to fruition a little while you were still at college
Hmm.
makes it more makes it greater, I guess, or,
Hmm.
or, or better. But that's not why you worked hard.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail on the head too with sports are so, and this is why I love them and why they're frustrating is you're not guaranteed. And we talk about this all the time. There's no guarantee ever. Because you work hard doesn't mean that you'll win. That would make sports so unfun to watch if an underdog never won, right? Like it just I couldn't say, oh well, I'm working hard, so I deserve this. It's mine. I need you to give it to me. Like I have to earn it, and sometimes that's just not how it's meant to go.
If you have if you win all the time, especially when you're younger, it just means you're not playing the right competition.
Mhm. I
I
agree.
get you UConn in their prime or Caitlin Clark at Iowa. Like I get they just can't go play other people. Like they're just in the zone right now. But when you're playing youth sports, if you're winning all the time, you need to expand your zone a little.
Yeah, well, and I think that goes for life too, like the saying of if you're the smartest person in the room, you're not in the right room. Like you should be around people who are going to challenge you, and you have to kind of do like check-ins with yourself every once in a while and say, is my circle pushing me to be better? Are the people I'm with pushing me to be better? And I just think that's super important too, because sometimes the answer is going to be no. And it's hard, but that's life sometimes, right? And that doesn't mean you can't have a relationship with those
Right.
people. It just means, okay, I need to do something that's going to push me out of my comfort zone.
Well, you know me and my favorite sayings, and I was never prouder when you used one in a speech that, I mean, I think life's like a yo-yo walking up the stairs,
Yeah,
right? Like
you gotta elaborate on that too.
I will, but I guess some things I get when I look on social media, everybody's like 1% better every day's gain, every day's a growth. Like, no, that's not how it works.
It's not linear. Yeah.
Yeah, you're be consistent, my favorite phrase. You're walking up a flight of stairs, so of course you'll get to the top and be better off. But what throws most people is that yo-yo, every step of the way is going up and down, up and down, up and down, up and down. And
Mhm.
those immediate highs and lows is what frustrates people and what distracts people and what makes them lose focus and what makes them quit.
Mhm.
So the highest the highest rung of the yo-yo at the lowest step is not even going to be close to the lowest rung at the highest step.
Mhm.
And
100%.
yeah, and you get used to it. And it's like we always talk about Duke basketball and just handle the hard better,
Yeah.
get going. And I think we forget that. I'm not about 1% growth every day. I think that's impossible. I'm about take the growth when you get it, take the losses when you get it. But if you
Mhm.
stay consistent with the process, the growth will supersede the losses, kind of like the stock market.
Well, yeah. And that's something, you told me that from a young age, the yo-yo analogy, and it's something that like I truly thought about a lot in college. I remember one of my teammates and I, like, we during the game, I'd be like, the yo-yo is down right now. It is rock bottom.
Did you
And then,
really say that?
yeah, yeah.
God bless.
And yeah, and it's just funny because it's a different way to kind of put into words what you're feeling. But if it's all the way at the bottom, guess what direction it has to go next?
Well, no, but it's true. Like you can't if every day is good, you don't how do you know what a better day is? Like
Mm,
you have to have it's perspective. It's the yin and the yang. You have to have bad times to appreciate the good times. And
yeah,
and
and
to,
I think
and to
you
know
see,
the difference. It's not like Barbie land, you know.
I would love to go to Barbie Land.
Well, I know, but they had their ups and downs.
They
They
did.
figured it
They did. They did. No, yeah, that's why I like your analogy because you see them on Instagram and all that where it's just this straight line and it's not. And I think too, like the failures are just as, if not more, and I don't even want to say failures, the lows are just as, if not more important than your most successful time. And I think that's something that needs to be talked about more is when you're at a low point, like that's okay. That's gonna happen. I try to almost think about it and I can be better as, okay, what is this setting me up for? Right? Like what can I learn from this instead of why is this happening to me? What can I learn from this to get the yo-yo back up?
what can I learn? When things go bad, everybody's like, why me instead of what can I learn?
Mhm. And it's
That's
hard. Like I could be better at it 100%. And you and Jenna and mom hold me accountable for that, right?
do you yeah, we do. And well, we all hold each other
Yeah.
accountable for it. I mean, we can get into the high school years, especially when we have like the sessions
Yeah.
and we all vent and, like that's important to get stuff off your chest.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, then we would all end our conversations. Well, what are you gonna do about it? Like, how's it gonna change? Not just
And one of
wham, blame other
and one
people.
of my sister's favorite lines she's ever said is when she talks to people sometimes and they come at her with a problem, she literally will say, "Do you want sympathy or do you want solutions?"
Yeah.
And she doesn't mean that in a bad way. And I think that is probably one of the smartest things you could go into a conversation with. Because there's honestly times where I just want sympathy. Like I just want you to listen to me and I just want to vent and then move on. Like I know what I have to do. I don't need you to tell me how to fix it. I'm just annoyed and I need 5 minutes. Or there's other times where like I really don't know how to fix this and I need a solution. And I think that's super important because sometimes, like, if I'm on the listening end, I'm a solutions person, right? Like, everything you say
Right.
to me, I'm going to give you a fix to it. But sometimes that's not what people need.
I like that. Who would have known the truth bomb from Jenna? But
I
but
know.
it's so true.
You got to
Because
think.
other times you're just venting or bitching. Like that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just give me a little sympathy. I know what the next step is. Just let me get it
And I know
out.
I'm
And
being
yeah,
dramatic. Just let me.
yeah, you have to have your circle. And then other times you need someone to slap you in the face and say, all right, let's move on.
Yeah.
It's time to
Yep.
do you I think it's also important as we wrap this up. And again, we'll touch base with a ton of the stuff we talked about today. The sport should not be your identity. How important is that?
That is so, 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 so important. And I feel like from a young age, I got that. I luckily got that instilled in me. But that is probably one of the most important things I hope everyone can take from this podcast is just you have to lean into the other things in your life, right? So your sport, like I was talking about before, if your sport is all that you focus on, your self-worth is going to be extremely tied to how you perform in your sport. And that is a really dangerous game to play just because, especially in softball, baseball, more than any other sport, right? You fail more than you succeed, which means that you're going to be upset more than you're happy, which means that your self worth, right, might be a little down a majority of the time, right? Whereas you have to divide almost your life into different pieces. Like, I need to make sure I'm a good daughter today, sister today, student today, friend today, teammate today, right? I need to make sure that I'm giving attention to other pieces of my life that kind of feed my soul and give me joy other than how well I hit a big yellow ball. Right. Like, and as silly as that sounds, it's just crazy. And I can't emphasize.
I learned so you graduated high school, you were female athlete of the year, and when you got to Binghamton your freshman year, how much did everybody care about those accolades and your identity to that?
No, I mean, and I mean this in the best way. Like when you play D1 sport, everybody has those accolades. Like you come in and it's almost expected at that point. So you have to always be happy with the person that you are first and foremost. And I think one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten, I remember I saw it, I think it was online, and I tried to do this a lot in college, is you almost have to divide your day into different pieces. Like, and it can be whatever you want. Like mine in college was, okay, I have practice from 7 to 11, and then I have class noon to 4, right? Like if my practice did not go well, okay, well now I have the opportunity to change my day and make sure I'm at least a good student today. Other than it's kind of like the spilled coffee analogy where you wake up, you spill your coffee, there goes my whole day, it's ruined. Like that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard because your day hasn't even started. Like I think that's really good advice. Or it could be the flip side. Like I had an awesome practice and then I go to class and I failed a quiz. So it's like I still and it makes it really hard as a student athlete because and I would talk about this with my teammates all the time. It's like unless I had a great lift, a great practice, got 100 on my quiz, made a good dinner, and got 8 hours of sleep, like something went wrong in my day. So if I picked the one thing I went wrong, I would have a bad day every day.
Right.
So
Yeah, no, I think it's great. Let's end this first episode with this. Proudest softball moment for you, or is that too hard?
proudest sophomore moment.
Or or the memory, like something you just never forget. Like it's a loaded question. It's hard.
I think for me it would be my senior year. Um, we went down to play at Georgia Southern, and this was the first year I was a starter on my team. After the COVID year, I was starting, and I had been working super hard on my swing, just everything. And I finally was starting. I was so excited, emotions were high, and my first at bat, I struck out.
Oh, I remember.
On a rise ball, right?
I don't know that, but
Um, and all the emotions start coming back in. You start overthinking, oh my gosh, like I need to perform, like I want this so bad, and as all you saw out there, sometimes the more you want it or the more stress you have, the tougher it gets. So my next at bat, I went into the box, and my coach called timeout during my at bat, and she pulled me over and she's like, you need to show everybody what you've worked on over the past couple months and just go in there and don't think about it and just do you. And I was like, that just hit really hard. I needed to hear that and I needed someone to say it to me. And I stepped back in the box and I hit a double. And I don't know, it was just in that moment, I was like, I got this. Like, I just felt, I kind of just sunk into what I was doing. My team like erupted in the dugout. And just that year, I ended up being nationally ranked for doubles per game in all of the NCAA. And I just feel like that was just so, I remember that.
you've had a great coaching staff. I mean,
100%.
for the most part, we talk about the drop ball in Florida and joke around, but
Yeah.
you've had a lot of great role models in the right stages of your process, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that being said, we never blamed anybody. You learned
No.
from other coaches as well. I guess that's a good
Yeah.
way to put it, right?
Yeah.
My proudest moment is when you caught bullpen all year. In your sophomore year, you were named captain of the team and you didn't even play.
Mhm.
Like that's cool stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
would I'd rather if you started and been all conference, of course. Yeah, but
No, I
but I,
agree.
I had to no, but that's neat. That's when I knew you were in the right place to finish your career. Like right then.
100%.
Like
100%.
whatever happens,
And
happens,
I
you
knew,
know.
I knew from the beginning I was in the right place to finish my career, whether, whatever was going to happen. I just knew academically, athletically, surrounded by the people I was surrounded by, like I was going to ride it out there no matter what. Like I was just staying. So I was just committed to what I was doing.
No, it's awesome. I know this episode, it's kind of just like us throwing up all sorts of memories and
Yeah.
things, and it's not going to be like that all the time. Everything we talked about, we can bring countless guests and coaches and people
Mhm.
on sharing their stories. But I think it's important to know that it's nothing linear about this. It's ups and downs, ups and downs. Again, the yo-yo effect. And that's what made it all worth it looking back, right?
100%. Absolutely.
And to
So,
this day, I don't feel bad if somebody in my high school program's like, oh, I'm on modified, I'm not on this. I'm like, I don't feel bad. We've been through that, you
right.
know. Uh, it doesn't mean like I think when you play sports, people have the expectation of where you should be. You can't do that. Like there's nothing fair about sports. You just have to play and use the work
Yeah.
ethic and the things you learn, and overall you'll have a better life. I
And I
think that's
think on a last note too, going off of exactly what you just said is so many people are so quick, right? Like if I said some sort of criticism to you, the natural response is, well, what's wrong with you that you needed to say that to me instead of, okay, like let me reflect on what they said. Is it valid? Yes or no? What can I do about it? Is it something I can fix? Right? Like we're missing, I feel like in general, a lot of us that step back instead of that rush response, like, well, what's wrong with you? Why are you saying that to me? Like, whatever, screw you, right? Instead of, okay, like let me take a step back, think about it, work on it, and then come back and even have a conversation the next day if it needs to be had, right? Instead of in the heat of the moment when things are hot.
well, I appreciate this. This is going to be fun. You've
Yeah,
come a long ways. I probably should have said my proudest moment was you breaking up that perfect game at 8U.
honestly, yeah. Because I didn't swing. I didn't do anything. I just
Yeah. What'd you do to break it up? Nothing.
nothing. I was
But you
just
know what?
me. I was just
You know,
me and
I don't
nothing.
I don't know if you remember, you told me like afterwards, I'm like, that girl like was out of our league. And I don't know if you remember this. You said something to the effect that like that's how good I want to be. Like I
Yeah.
want to be like that instead of just complaining about it. Like it was
Mm.
neat. You know,
I
it's
don't
been a
remember
great
that.
journey. Well, of course you don't. You know, you just went and got a ice cream slushy or something afterwards. You know, I don't. I think because you guys lost 10-1 or whatever. You know,
We're still hungry.
I'm surprised we fed you.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
good. Good thing I didn't say I'll buy you a meal when you get your first hit that summer. You would have starved.
That would have been not good.
Nah, but it's up. But again, that's what makes the fun moments more fun. So, all right, we will move on. And again, the Game of Life podcast is about just understanding that your journey is what makes it all worth it, regardless. You know, we'll have lots of people on, and it's never about comparing. It's just about learning. So, all
Uh,
right, until
Thank
next
you all
time.
for being here. Really excited.
Absolutely. See ya.